So Microsoft has been in the news quite a bit. Tim O'Brien works with developers around the world, but Surface.
Yes.
What's going on with that? What does that mean for developers? It's new, just came out a couple days ago.
Yeah, it's been in the news a little bit. Maybe we'll relinquish TechMeme back to Gabe here after a couple more days. But yeah, we made an announcement on Monday. In addition to the family of hardware products we take to market, we showed a couple laptops, or showed a couple devices, tablets, one on Intel, one on ARM. And I tend to look at these things through the lens of developer and platform, just by nature of the work that I do, which is platform evangelism at its core. And to the extent that there's a correlation or a connection between energy and excitement about a platform and the opportunity for developers to write apps and make money on that platform, Surface is really part of, I think, a bigger story about developer opportunity on Windows 8. I think it's a component of a groundswell of not only anticipation about the product coming to market, but also a growing opportunity for developers to make apps and write apps and make money. And it's not like there's some magic formula here, right? What makes a platform is economic opportunity for the developer ecosystem, which is kind of a verbose way of saying developers like to write apps and make money. And this has been the case forever, even going back to the mainframe. So that's certainly the case today, and it's great to see all the excitement and the energy.
So what can, there are some developers in the audience, what can they expect to hear from Microsoft? I mean, there's a conference happening in San Francisco later this week. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a lot more, I'm sure. What should they expect from Microsoft about building for these devices?
Well, the conference in San Francisco is actually in a few hours. I don't know what time it is in the States right now. It's like 3 in the morning or something. Yeah. The phone conference is going to be the Bay Area today, where we'll talk about the roadmap and some of the features for Windows Phone. We recently announced a slew of enhancements to our cloud platform, Windows Azure. The platform story around Windows 8 is fully disclosed, but there's obviously a lot of excitement there around the fact that we took HTML5 and made it a first-class application platform for building Metro-style apps in Windows 8. So the pieces are coming together, a common design language across all these devices in the form of Metro.
Payment system.
What's that?
Payment system.
The payment system?
I'm asking you. How are developers going to be able to monetize on this platform? Well,
that's been fully disclosed as well. I mean, the monetization story in Windows 8 is pretty interesting. Hit a certain revenue threshold, your take goes from 70% up to 80%. You can use third-party commerce platforms, third-party ad networks. You can do in-app purchasing. It's a fairly flexible model for developers to monetize.
Great. So just to back up a little bit from there, tell us a little bit more of what you do at Microsoft, how Microsoft is changing. I mean, developer relations at Microsoft is not always a fun job, or hasn't been in the past. It sounds like you have fun doing it.
It's got peaks and valleys. Let me put it that way.
So tell us more about your job, what you do every day, what you deal with.
So, platform evangelism at Microsoft is kind of a twofold type of a role. It involves a lot of engagement with the engineering teams. And the thing that makes it such an interesting place to work is that you get to be really at the intersection of everything interesting happening in the company, to the extent that a lot of the most interesting things have a platform component. So we partner with the product teams to make sure that what it is they're doing gets landed with the developer audience in the correct way. And then we spend a lot of time outside dealing with or engaging with developers, developer communities, tech influencers, and really everyone in between.
So what are some of the things you're hearing from developers these days about what they want out of Microsoft that they're not getting right now?
Well, development has changed in a lot of ways, mm-hmm. right, over the years. And I think we've kind of moved on from these monolithic single vendor stacks where developers would self-identify and say, I'm an Oracle person, or I'm a Windows person, or I'm a Java person. I think the notion of having a mixed bag of technologies that interoperate and work in a certain way is table stakes for even being relevant.
Hadoop, Node.js, outside.
Right. So being able to meet developers where they are, in the sense that we've gone from the old days, which was, hey, all you developers using that old thing, don't use that old thing, that doesn't work. Use this new thing, it works better. And I think the Java versus .NET battle was kind of waged in that way, and I'm not sure that really ever worked. I think being able to say to the developer community the skills, the investment, all the languages you like to code in, all the tools you like to use, all those things move forward into these next generation platforms. That's a very, very important piece versus having to go out and say, hey, learn this new thing, learn this new language, basically delay the time to market for your great idea because I want you to use this thing instead of the thing you're using today.
How do you go about changing Microsoft internally to deal with this kind of world and not the 90s where Microsoft tried to own everything?
Well, a lot of that change is taking place today. A lot of the work that we do is shipping bits against some of these strategies. To support non-Microsoft technologies, to support open standards, to support open source projects, tools, runtimes, frameworks, all those things on our platform, to the extent you would oversimplify, right, and say the world is carved up into two pieces. It's the Microsoft developers and non-Microsoft developers. How do you take our existing base of developers, 7-8 million developers, and move them forward into the cloud onto this new generation to devices, and at the same time take this group of non-Microsoft developers that are heavily interested in open source technologies and say, hey, you don't have to change a thing. We'll support all of those technologies on our platform today.
So tell me a little bit about your background. You were in a startup and you got acquired by Microsoft, so you've actually been on both sides before, correct?
We didn't get acquired by Microsoft, but yeah, I have been on the other side of this, and I don't talk about it much because it's, conventional wisdom would have you believe that the lessons you would learn from working in a company that was 32 employees at its peak, it's hard to take those lessons and apply them to this company of 90,000 employees that operates in 6 continents. But I've been thinking about it more and more lately because it informs, I think, the way we should think. It certainly informed my level of faith and confidence in our ability to break through with a lot of these challenges that we have with startup
So it's
audiences.
called performance, right, and Java tools?
It's actually an interesting story that relates very much to this, which is I helped get a company started in 2000. There was some guys working on their doctoral dissertation at University of Washington. They figured out a way to do deep dive diagnostics on J2 app servers. And I joined as employee number 5. Right, there were 4 technical guys. I was the business guy to the extent I knew something about how to pull together a private placement, and I knew how to deal with VCs. I didn't know everything. I just knew more than they did. So it was one of those, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king type of deals. And so, this was in the 2000 sort of .com bust time frame. We got our A round done 6 months after the .com crash in 2000, April of 2000. And our Series B we got done 6 weeks after September 11th. I'll never forget that. September 12th, the term sheet that was on the paper, on the table disappears, and the new term sheet appears, and the message was, hey, the world changed literally yesterday, and so did your valuation. So we were undercapitalized from the start. The C round wasn't in the cards, and we ended up getting acquired by Mercury Interactive before Mercury got acquired by HP. But the interesting thing about this is that in right around 2000, we started getting a lot of questions from customers about .NET. And at the time, we were riding the kind of the J2 app server wave. We just follow these BEA and IBM customers around and say, hey, are you having performance problems? And they'd say, yes, of course. And we'd sell them tools and make it better. And so these customers started saying, hey, what's your .NET story? And I said, well, we really don't have one. So I told the engineering guys, go download the bits and see if we can instrument the CLR, the Common Language Runtime, which is kind of the moral equivalent of the Java virtual machine in the .NET world. And after a couple months of pestering the engineering guys, I went to see our engineering VP, and I said, what's the deal? We got to give an answer to these people. And he says, come on in, shut the door, shut the door. And he was acting all spy versus spy. And I said, what's the deal? What's going on here? And he goes, and understand, this was a very anti-Microsoft culture within this company. All these guys were, hardcore Slashdoters, Apache, Linux, Tomcat. That's where all their energy was. And even though we'd set up shop a couple miles from Microsoft's campus, it was a decidedly Microsoft-free shop. I was the business guy. I didn't care one way or another. I was in favor of whatever customers were buying, so I just never got sort of caught up in the religious end of it. But it became part of the engineering culture of the company. So here we are a couple years later, and I'm asking this guy, can we do this .NET thing or not? And he says, after he makes me shut the door, and he goes, hey, this .NET shit is cool. And pardon my French, I mean, that was the verbatim quote. And I said, cool how? I mean, what does that mean? Like Fonzie cool or some other kind of cool? And he said, look, these Microsoft guys got it right. All the complexity with J2EE, the integration, the tooling, the class libraries, it's all good. And I said, fine, I'll go call these guys back and tell them, we can do something. And he goes, no, you don't understand. We may have bet on the wrong stack. Microsoft's going to give Sun a run for his money.
This is heresy. I mean, it's still kind of heresy.
This was heresy inside that's why he didn't, want anyone to know this. And the funny thing about this was the big takeaway is he never talked to a Microsoft person, ever. He never talked to a Microsoft evangelist. He never got PowerPointed to death. He never went to a hackathon. His only interaction with a company was going to the MSDN, the Microsoft Developer Network website, downloading the bits and just basically evaluating what it was on its technical merit versus, it takes some detachment from past biases in order to do that, but this was just kind of a business problem we had to solve. So fast forward to today, we still have a lot of these same challenges with companies that we talk to that have some of that, I think, cultural element. But the interesting thing here is when we tell them what it is we're doing, the feedback is fairly consistent every time, which is, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that you could run Linux virtual machines in your cloud platform. I didn't realize that every service.
But this is a whole shift on Microsoft's side too, right? Yeah. Where they're getting away from how they used to do things. They're saying, okay, we're going to allow open source technologies in. We're going to work with the community. We're going to give back.
Totally. So I mean, it's just a slew of things that we're doing. I didn't realize that you could deploy Linux to a virtual machine running in Windows Azure from Linux or a Linux desktop or a Mac. I didn't realize that I could log on to Windows Azure using my Facebook ID, my Google ID, my Yahoo ID, or any other.
But I mean, now you're going up against the entire world, right? Everyone's trying to do, there are many companies, Oracle, Salesforce, a wide variety of other companies who are getting into this space. Microsoft it's going to be a tough road, right? I mean,
we think we hold more cards than any of those companies. And the reason is twofold. First, you have the whole born on the web cloud DNA thing that we get asked about quite a bit. And people forget that we bought Hotmail in 1997. We've been delivering consumer services on the web for some 15 years now. We have some 600 million unique visitors, data centers all over the world. I mean, we know a thing or two about delivering services on the web. And at the same time, delivering commercial packaged software in the enterprise for over 20 years. Is a non-trivial thing as well. And the intersection of those two not only gives us the ability to, I think, execute much, much better, but at the same time, give people the ability to do both. People tend to get tangled up in this whole cloud computing thing around, private versus public and on-prem and off. This is kind of a tyranny of the or discussion where a lot of the companies, even some early stage companies, want to do both. I mean, even Zynga's pulling server instances out of AWS to build out zCloud on-prem, and that surprised a lot of people. That what most people think of as an early stage company, even though they're public.
But I mean, they're also
servers.
A lot of the things that you've been doing. I mean, Amazon is trying to do on their end, right? They're putting this stuff back into the cloud. They have their own platform as a service that's disrupting.
Well, Amazon is in the infrastructure tier, which is a little bit different from the platform tier. So that's a nuance. I don't know that we have a lot of time to get into, but it's bare metal VMs in the cloud, which is a fairly commodity offering. We're in that space as well because it turns out that pretty much every company has some sort of portfolio of applications that they need to partition across stuff they just want to kick out the door and run on some bare metal VM versus an app they want to write natively for the cloud that will take all the advantages, take full advantage of what cloud computing brings to bear in terms of elastic scalability and all those things, versus things that they have to keep to themselves, either because there's some business reason, technical reason, crazy regulatory reason, whatever the case may be.
So is Yammer getting bought by Microsoft for 1.2 or 1.4 billion?
Well, that one, that falls into the bucket of rumors and speculation. So
maybe so, maybe not. All right, give him a big hand, guys.